You might not know this, but the world is teeming with life. What goes on in the body? There's something special about
growing, and
this particular
the mind has endless capabilities.
There's a lot of
Heavy metals interrupt
their DNA.
ATP synthase.
ATP. Okay, there's
Just
the cell
imagine
wall.
the small. We can learn so much about our ancestors. Reading,
And I think we're moving more and
it's
more.
a new type
The
entire
ways.
body.
More of this. What are they teaching?
A bunch of systems.
There are
DNA
worlds that we haven't even
DNA polymerase
seen
3.
yet. Why does
All in a drop of water.
doctors know
The
a lot?
universities keep
There's
on
more
using
in our bodies that we don't know about than we do.
All right. Hey,
Hello.
we're back. This is episode 3 of Beyond Being Well. I am one of your co-hosts, Cy Szynski.
And I'm Dr. Ryan Keegan. Not a doctor, though. If this were a video, you'd notice I am sunburnt beyond belief.
Yet again.
I just got back from a trip to Zimbabwe, Africa.
Again, I'm very excited to be learning about what went on as I wasn't there.
Yes, it was an animal therapy retreat. And I'm very excited because I met someone on the retreat and I brought him back to come and talk on the show.
And I can sort of get a little taste of it that way as well.
Yes, here is Dr. Christopher Nolan.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're coming through.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on.
thanks for having me.
So, Chris, where are you calling from right now?
So I'm actually calling from my hometown. It's in the state of Washington. Have you heard of Langley, Washington?
Yeah, maybe.
I think I've been there.
Yeah, I may have been there. No, I
Um,
actually haven't been to Washington, but sounds familiar.
yeah, it's a little town on like the edge of Washington. Washington kind of looks like
A square.
yeah, well, it also looks like a buffalo. If you've seen it a couple times.
I could see that.
Buffaloes are squares.
Yeah, a square.
I kind of see the horns.
Yeah, so it sort of looks like a buffalo.
Abstracted into a square, I guess. Sort
Yeah,
of
exactly.
somewhat if like an abstract painting was done of a buffalo.
Sort of. And if you think of it as a buffalo and you look right where like the horns sort of intersect with like the forehead.
Because I was saying I saw horns.
Yeah, that's sort of where Langley is. So that's kind of where I'm calling from.
Wait, Chris, you didn't pick to live in Washington because it looked like a buffalo.
I did not actually. It was a coincidence, but it
I
was
love how that works.
Because I think now's the perfect time to talk about, your expertise.
Yeah, that actually is a great segue because I'm an animologist with a specialty in animal emotions.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So basically, I've been living in Kenya, Africa for the past 10 years. I'm back now in Langley, but just about a month ago, I was hanging out in Kenya. And we're sort of digging into the emotions of animals.
So, Chris, if you could please describe for the audience what brought you to Zimbabwe for the retreat where I met you on.
One thing, the Western Saharan spiny mouse, or for the animologists out there, the Acamas arensis.
Yeah, I do remember a couple of days we were with those mice.
Yeah. We actually spent 5 days with the mice.
So you guys sort of had a retreat with mice.
Yeah, we did indeed. My job there was I was conducting a study actually about how mice respond to anger.
And so how was that? How did that work?
What we would do is we would just sort of get them angry, poke them, hang them upside down, play noises, and then we would just sit back and watch.
Can I ask a question? How does this work in sort of if you had to imagine a teeter-totter, and on one end you have cruelty, but on the other hand you have test for anger. So how does that play out there?
Yeah, so I sort of look at that spectrum in a different way, if you may.
Okay.
I kind of look at the spectrum as on one side, we've got humanity. And then on the other side, we have animals. And if you think about it, they're kind of the same thing.
They're kind of the same thing, but also human. Sometimes we need to test animals in order to, because there's something to be said about gaining knowledge from them.
Yeah,
Isn't that right, Chris?
very important to get as much knowledge as we can from the animals, because animals can teach us so much.
I just wanted to butt in for a second because I think it would help the audience to get some context here. It was when Chris was working on these mice that I happened to actually join him with the mice. And that's how we met. And then sort of the experiment and the retreat sort of mixed. Would that be right to say, Chris?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it's sort of like interchangeable, really, or became.
Yeah, so it got to the point where we didn't really know what was being experimented on or who was receiving therapy. The retreat and experiment were very fluid.
That's kind of cool.
I would say that I actually was very aware of what was being experimented on and what was like not.
So you sort of acted as a guide for Ryan. In fact, sort of a more know-how coming into your realm.
But Chris, what about the sort of animal-human tactile therapy that I was in, where you put me in a pen with these mice and had me roll around? You had me roll around the grass floor with the mice, sort of rolling over top of them sometimes or brushing into them. I did actually receive a few bites.
Yeah, that was not therapy. That was actually looking into a different emotion that the mice tend to express sometimes called happiness.
So that was an experiment, and you were under the impression that it was therapy, so you didn't really know what was going on then.
Well, it was definitely therapeutic. Would I do it again? Probably not. But am I glad that I did it? Absolutely.
So it's maybe one of those sort of life experiences that just by doing, it's just something to add to your collection.
I would disagree with pretty much everything that you guys are saying right now. Just because of the fact that it wasn't therapy.
So what were you trying to accomplish with the therapy experiment thing?
As I said, we were looking at the anger in mice. But why we look at mice, you might ask? We look at the emotions of mice to understand the emotions of humans, because animals are very intelligent. And
animals are smart.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
They're not only smart, they're sort of intelligent by design.
Yeah, and I feel like we're learning more and more about how smart they can be.
Okay, if I give you guys an example.
Yeah.
Just from my studies.
Sure.
So one of the things I've noticed is that insects are brilliant. Are you guys familiar with this?
I've heard.
So
they're actually a little bit underrated, Chris. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, answer scholars.
One insect alone is not that bright.
But it is a little bit smart.
It's actually not at all smart. Once you get into like swarm level sizes, you start to see the genius that like outweighs human intelligence.
So is it have to do with the size? Like, I'm wondering, once it gets to the size of a human brain, does there start to be actual intelligence there?
Yeah, that's something that we're looking into.
And what are these?
I would have thought that.
The swarms. So swarms of locusts, swarms of ants.
I'm telling you, ants are fascinating.
Could this be replicated with swarms of other animals? What about monkeys? A swarm of monkeys?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but what you're asking here is, could the idea of take a beehive. Could a beehive be replicated with zebras?
I would say
This is interesting.
that intelligence level could definitely improve zebras. However, like once you start to kind of like take one animal and like mix it with another, things can get a little bit complicated on like the chemical side of things.
Sure.
But in just the like animology, it's certainly there, if that makes sense.
Chris, I want to go back to, I guess it was an experiment, but the retreat, I'm still a little bit confused because what about the no light therapy you had me go under, where I crawled through those tunnels in the dirt with the mice? How was that an experiment?
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is by then we were no longer focusing on the mice. We were actually looking into a different animal. We were looking into termites.
So that's what I felt.
That's what you felt.
What was that looking at exactly?
So yeah, the termites we've found have this emotion that's actually unlike anything we've ever seen before. And we actually haven't named it yet.
Is it kind of, so can I make a comparison here and maybe like the additional flavors that we haven't named quite yet?
Yeah, or smells. Lots of things on this world are yet to be discovered. One of those
That's what
fields
we're all about. New discoveries.
They're made every single day.
all the time. And one of those things, one of those fields, you might say, is emotions. There's so many emotions out there that just we haven't even tipped the iceberg.
And I think
Wait, on the same track, can I just say, are you doing any brain imaging of termites?
Yeah, we are a little bit, but it's very low funded. So they can't get as many images as they would like.
Well, I'm hoping maybe this podcast will help bump that up and maybe get you some investors in that space, because it seems like a very important place to be going, and I'm interested personally in.
Yeah, because I think getting back to the core of, why our podcast exists, about beyond being well, emotions are so important in our health. And by understanding these new developments in emotional science, we can really unlock our true potential.
Yeah. I think the key to understanding human emotions is just looking at animal emotions, because there's so much there.
No, and we started from animals. I mean,
We are animals.
We are animals, and it comes back to that. I mean, it's like right in front of our faces. I don't know why we don't come back to that so easily. You know what I mean?
That's a big problem actually in the field of science, is that lots of people don't realize we're animals. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah, we forget it too quickly.
We live our daily lives just kind of like so oblivious in like houses and buildings.
Yeah, I'm picking up this mug. I'm not an animal. You know what I mean?
I brush my teeth. No other animal does that.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how healthy animals actually are, though? I mean, it's one thing to see an animal die in nature from competition, but disease,
Rare.
very rare. Cancer,
Yeah.
super rare.
It's so smart
The
of them.
death rates of animals are very, very low.
Elephants have almost no cancer.
I was going to ask you about that because I heard about there was an elephant you met, and
Yes.
really, really fun.
Zambodini.
Who?
Zambodini, the elephant.
Was
Can
that
I-
one of my elephants, or was that one of the troops?
It was actually one of the troops.
Okay.
What do you mean, troops?
Yeah, so Zambodini was actually part of the troops elephant, one that I rode to get from water source to village during the retreat. And I was just speaking to my cultural guide on the elephant. Well, we were riding the elephant. I was speaking to him. His name was Ade. I know you remember him, Chris.
I do very well.
You didn't mention
Ade's such a great man.
You didn't mention him to me before.
No, I didn't think you needed to know.
Okay.
But anyway, Ade and I were having this wonderful discourse over the cancer rates in elephants and how it is absolutely zero.
Yeah, it's just something they don't get.
Is there anything we can do, like harness from elephants? Any of
well,
their
the secret-
habits or their DNA even?
Well, their secret is in their DNA, and DNA is key.
You don't have to get the DNA from the elephant to have the same attitude as the elephant. We can be just as healthy.
So is your point kind of until we have the capabilities of going after the DNA and harnessing that, can we just take up the lifestyle of an elephant?
Yeah. So we as humans share many chemicals with elephants.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about DNA. We share many chemicals with them.
Sure.
But the chemicals that are being expressed in elephants are actually like very deep inside of us. So elephants are very happy because chemicals like endorphins and dopamine are just flowing out of them.
Besides, all of the knowledge they can impart onto us in terms of health, at the end of the day, they are just a beautiful species.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think honestly there's something to be said there. Just beauty, just pure beauty.
And on the same token, humans are beautiful too, because we're animals.
We are animals. So I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up. And we have a few last upkeep things, but first, let's hear from you, Christopher. What are you up to? What are you up to now? What's your
so you don't want to hear like about previous adventures or just kind of like what I'm doing like these days? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
I think currently.
Okay. So as I said, I'm in Washington, but I'm actually in Washington because I'm no longer permitted to be in Africa. If that makes sense.
Why is that?
What happened?
I was doing some experiments on African falcons. And they are the national bird of Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And there's actually only 3 left in the world. But there were only 3 left in the world. So because of their uniqueness, I wanted to run some tests, like basic science tests, like drop tests. And it basically all 3 of the birds passed away in the experiment. And so because of the way that I removed them from their lives, I was no longer permitted in Africa. But here in Washington, I'm doing very well.
Wow. Okay. So, well, that wasn't really an answer to what you're doing now. I mean, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
Can we go to Africa again?
We can't go to Africa. Mostly, like these days, I've just been thinking a lot about where I'm going to go next, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, let me know.
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email.
Let me know, I guess.
Okay.
So thank you. Thanks, Christopher, for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We appreciated you coming on and I just want to add one more thing before we say sayonara, is that I wanted to do a quick update with the tea thing that I was doing that I was mentioning last time.
I think we're kind of running out of time here. I think we've gone over what we usually do anyway.
Okay.
I think maybe next time we'll put it in.
All right,
Your
next.
tea thing.
Okay, I'll give you guys the update, and that's something to look forward to then for next episode.
Yeah. We'll look forward to it.
All right. Thanks for listening.
4th episode will be out shortly.